Well, no, not at all. It doesn't make any sense. I purchased the green screen material for you. So all you have to do is make sure you set it up and make sure it's all right. I shouldn't have to talk to you. Oh, hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome back. Welcome back. This will be the last one for tonight, in which we are covering the width and height of an actual box or a block level element, like the actual div. So today, let's actually create the actual div, place it via HTML, and work with the actual dimensions of the actual box. So with this, now we're going to start actually getting closer and closer to actually structuring how you would actually lay out an actual box. Once you can lay out a box, then you can actually lay out the actual contents within the actual box and start to actually visualize different types of HTML pages that you would actually create in the future, because mainly everything that we actually create via HTML is actually just all within boxes. Okay, so without further ado, let's go on ahead and let's get started, and we'll try to figure out the rest of this green screen situation. Jeez. All right, let's go on ahead, open up Visual Studio Code, and I'll give you a second to open up any editor that you would like. 3, 2, 1, magic. All right, so let's go on ahead. We're going to be working with the height and the actual width of an actual box. So first, let's go on ahead and create those actual files. So we can do that right here. Hit the plus icon and go on ahead, and since we're working with width and height, let's name it width and height. And let's do the same thing for the actual CSS file, width and height.css. Obviously, you can, with the short amount of CSS that we're actually working with, you can usually include those, but it's always good practice to actually have your CSS separate from your actual HTML. So what we can do here, we all remember what we need to do to get some bare bones HTML onto the page. Let's go here and let's close this out. Actually, even before that, open that up with Live Server, and let me drag that over here. There we go. And we'll shrink that down, close this out, exclamation mark for the bare bones. And we're working with the width and height. That's mainly going to be for an actual box itself. Let's add the actual CSS file to the page, or to the HTML page. Okay, so I can just do link, tab, and the actual location, which is right here, same directory. And let's go on ahead and add some bare bones markup that we're going to actually work with. Let's refresh this because I don't see anything there. There we go. I see the title has changed, so that's good. So that's working. All right, so let's add an actual div. And within that div, we're going to have an actual paragraph with some dummy text. We'll say lorem 30. I'll hit enter, and then I'll hit enter in here just so we can see the actual text all in one screen a little better. Okay, we'll plus enter here and here. All right, so I believe you guys and gals can see everything there. Perfect. All right, now let's go on ahead and let's move this down to the bottom. We'll close this out, put our markup up here so we can see it. And as far as the CSS, let's start with the actual div. So the div itself, let's put a border around that. That way we can always see exactly what we're working with. So the div is going to have a border, and it's going to be solid, and it's going to be black. All right, so there's our box. Everything within that actual div element is within the actual border, including the paragraph. All right, let's add a width to that div. Let's say the width is going to be 400 pixels. All right, so now it's a little smaller. All right, and let's add an actual height of 300 pixels. Okay, so now we can see the actual full width and height of that. And let's, add a crazy background color. We'll say the background color is going to be pink. All right, that'll work. So here we have an actual paragraph within the actual div. And you're going to want to play around with creating different types of divs in which that's mainly going to hold your content. You might have some to the left, you might have some to the right. I believe earlier in this particular video series, we did do a bare bones layout with HTML and CSS. You can find that within the actual channel. But it's very important to be able to change the width and height of the width depending on what the mock-up is or design that you're trying to work with. But this is just a bare bones portion where we're going to work with the actual paragraph and the actual div container itself. So now let's work with the actual paragraph that we do have inside that. Let's go on ahead and add a border to that just so we can see where our paragraph is. So there's our paragraph. It has the white border. I'm just going to make it a little thicker so we can see it. All right, that's a little better. And now let's give that an actual width. Let's say the width is going to be 80%. All right, you can use pixels, you can use ems, you can use an actual percentages. If I'm using a percentage here, it's going to be 80%, but 80% of what? 80% of its parent container. The parent container is 400 pixels. So if I made it 500 pixels, then the paragraph within this div is still going to be 80% of the 500. So let's change 400 to 500. All right, and it is still 80%. And actually a better number for us to visualize that would be 50%. So here it's 50%, which should be the actual end should be right in the middle. So now if I change this, make that a little bigger, make this a little bigger, and of course change that width to, let's say, 800. All right, and look at that. The paragraph width is still 50%, which we said right here. Okay, it's still 50% of the actual box or the parent container. All right, so let's bring that back down, and obviously I didn't shrink these up. Okay, so I believe we had the width at 80%. You can always play around with those percentages yourself. Let's go on ahead and add the actual height, and we'll say the height is also going to be 80%. Okay, and why am I not seeing all of this here? Oh, I got a width of 800. Let's bring that back down to 400. Okay, so our height is 80%. So 80% of the actual what? 80% of this 300. Okay, so we got our width, 80% from left and right, and our height up and down, 80% of the actual parent container's width, which is 300. Okay, and just to make things look a little better, let's go on ahead and add the background color to the paragraph. We'll say it's teal. Okay, and that does look ugly, but that's okay because we're just messing with the actual dimensions of the actual paragraph and the containing div element. So we'll change that color to white and the font family to Arial. And that'll do it. That'll do it. Nothing too crazy here. Obviously, there's a number of different things that you can do with this. If you wanted to go on ahead and center both of those, we can go on ahead and say margin 0 on the top and bottom and auto to the left and right. So that will center the actual div itself that's above. And if we wanted to do the same thing with the paragraph, we can do that same thing with the paragraph. Let's see here, margin 0 and auto. So now that is also actually centered within the actual middle of the container. And then of course you can change that to make it look like a news article or a title. It's up to you. But the biggest point and takeaway here is to actually work with the width and the height of an actual box okay, or creating an actual box, because these are eventually going to be the structure of our actual pages. All right, if you got any questions, comments, or concerns on how to work with width of a div element or a width of any other element as well, you can always leave a comment, send me an email, hit the notifications, and of course subscribe to the channel, because that definitely helps me create more and more material for you out there. I believe tomorrow we will be adding a number of different JavaScript tutorials, adding on to the JavaScript portion of the playlist for this channel. So be on the lookout for that. You'll actually get a notification if you did hit the notifications bell, but you should see it in your feed if you hit the subscription. All right, so definitely subscribe. And if you need to contact me directly, send me an email and we'll get right back with you. Other than that, you have a good night and enjoy, or a good morning, depending on where you are at in the world, and enjoy. That's it. Full stack out.